All right, we're going to start here in about 1 minute. 1 minute. Sound check. Sound check. Okay. Okay, you can turn the headset on now. We'll just make sure that's working. Okay, good. There we go. And you can let us know when you're ready to go live here. We should be good to go in about a minute, right? We're live now? Shh. Boker Tov. All right, so welcome to day 4 of the John readings. But what day is it in the Omer count? 5. That's right. Remember, this month's going to be very easy. If it's whatever day of the month it is, it's also the day of the Omer count. So it's not a tough thing to do. It's April 5th, and so it is day 5 of the Omer count. Okay, a couple of real quick things for everyone, especially also for the live streamers. Just a reminder of what we have coming up. It's always sad for me in a way that, when we have these 2-page schedules, and we get to page 2, and I put page 1 aside, and I'm like, there's almost no more left. We've reached past the halfway point. It's so funny because at the beginning it feels like, oh, it's going to be a long time. And then next thing you know, wow, where'd it go? It goes quick. The old saying, time flies when you're having fun. Well, that's so true. You guys having fun? Yeah! All right. Did you enjoy your free day? Yeah. All right, good. Excellent. My whole free day was just shot. All I could tell you about that. So I don't know about yours. No. Okay, on the schedule, just a reminder. So today we have our scripture readings in the morning. Then we're going to have lunch, and then we're going to have, for those of you on live stream as well, the Up to the Challenge teaching that was supposed to be on Tuesday will be today. All right, because we had made that little schedule switch. So that'll be this afternoon at 2:30. So come ready and prepared to be slapped around a little bit and woken up and whatever else I'm going to do from up here. Okay, so we're not going to be tickling any ears or coddling this afternoon. Okay, but I will be very encouraging. I will be very edifying. I'll be trying to lift you up and get you, but I want to get you to move in a forward-moving direction. That's part of that's why it's called Up to the Challenge. Are you up to the challenge of life? Okay, not just Torah observance, but life itself. Are you up to the challenge of what, until you pass into that grave? You've got to live this life, and there's ways to do it more successfully and ways to do it less successfully. Amen? Okay, so we'll talk a lot about that this afternoon. Tomorrow morning, then tonight, of course, we have our Erev Shabbat, Erev Holy Day meal, so we're going to have that over in the other building. Then tomorrow, we have our last day of readings. Okay, tomorrow morning, on Friday mornings, our last day of readings. Holy Day services in the afternoon, and then we go right into Shabbat. And so we're going to do an Erev Shabbat service, a fairly quick one, in here. All right? So after services, you're going to want your family in here. And so we'll still leave the chairs there where they are. We're going to sit here. We'll do our Erev Shabbat service. It's only about 10 or 15 minutes. It's not very long. We'll have a Kiddush and Motzi in here. Okay, we'll try to set that up in the back. And then we will be going over to the other building to eat our dinner, okay? We've already told them there that we may be a few minutes late, and they're okay with that. All right, so they'll make adjustments to the fact that we may get there a few minutes late. There's already going to be another group on property. They're going to be eating meals. I believe it's really a tremendous group of people that are cancer survivors, But I could also assume that some of them, because of that, will be older. And so we certainly don't want to disturb their meal having a Erev Shabbat service and me on the mic the whole time in the other building. So we'll have our Erev Shabbat service in here, where I can do all of the talking that we're going to do, and then we'll go over there to eat. Now, of course, we can certainly ask them also if they've eaten and are satisfied, and they can participate in that joyful thing, but, just to keep that in mind. So tomorrow, services in the afternoon, we're going to do Erev Shabbat in here, so just remind everybody in your family and anybody you run into that's not here now that we're going to be staying here. I'll remind everybody during services. Then on Saturday morning, we have our YMTY program presentations, and we will be streaming that this year. Okay, we'll be streaming that this year. We'll see if we can get that to work. And in advance, I'm going to tell the people on the live stream, we don't always have it mic'd as well as we'd like because there's a lot of children moving around and teenagers moving around. So you may not get to hear everything as good as you would like to. So please don't be typing in the chat and whining and complaining about it. We're not a production company here doing a big production. We're going to do the best we can. So I'm just letting you know in advance, you may not get everything. However, most years we never even streamed it. So it's the best we'll be able to do. And then, of course, in the afternoon on Saturday, we'll have our Shabbat services, supper, and then we'll start getting ready to get out of here, okay? Now, so that should cover it on the schedule. Just want to make sure we got that set. So today, wait a minute, I feel like I'm starting a teaching. Today, all right, so today we're going into day 4, John. Oh, my goodness. There we go. Somebody wanted to call in and be first ahead of Trey. Let me turn that to silent. I don't know what happened there. Okay, as a reminder, we should probably turn off. I should set an alarm to do that every time, so it's a reminder to tell everybody to turn their phones off. Okay, so today we're going to do John chapters 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Because some of these are shorter chapters and some of the long ones we did in the previous one. This is about 179 verses we're covering. Yesterday we did 199, so it's more chapters, less verses. And we have 11 readings, so we've got 5 people up there. We're going to need to put 6 more eventually. Okay, 5 people are up there now. 11 readings. Each reading's about 14, 15, 16 verses, depending. I try to break the readings up into somewhat complete thoughts so that we don't interrupt something too much in the middle of what was going on. And so it's not just arbitrary, count 15 verses and stop, but I try to not interrupt whatever John or Yeshua or whoever it is talking is saying here. Okay, so I wanted to make sure we have that. All right, so as always, when we do the readings, we're going to have somebody come up. I'm going to recite a blessing over them, tell them what verses they're going to read. You'll have the handheld mic to read. There's also a large print scriptures up here that you can use. You can bring your own book up and read out of your own, whatever you've got that you like to read out of, that's fine. Okay, you have the choice. It doesn't matter to me. That's up to you. And then afterwards, we're going to discuss all that we have read. So if you are in here, you may want to take some notes. You may want to make a little point to yourself to remind you that you want to ask a question about a verse, or you may want to make a comment about a verse. Also, for this afternoon, you might definitely want to bring a notepad and pencils and paper and make markers, something to write notes. You're definitely going to want to take notes this afternoon. Okay? All right, we're going to begin tradition with Trey Shepherd. Trey, come on up. Because Trey has been first ever since he was old enough for me to let him come up here and start doing these things. Okay. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Trey, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Trey's going to start in chapter 12 with verses 1 through 16.
Accordingly, Yeshua, 6 days before the Pesach, came to Beth Ani, where Eleazar was, who had died, whom he raised from the dead. So they made him a supper there, and Martha served, while Eleazar was one of those who sat at the table with him. Then Miriam took a pound of costly perfume of nard, anointed the feet of Yeshua, and wiped his feet with her hair, and the house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. Then one of his taught ones, Yehuda from Kirioth, son of Shimon, who was about to deliver him up, said, "Why was the perfume not sold for these 100 denarii and given to the poor?" And he said this, not because he was concerned about the poor, but because he was a thief and had the bag, and he used to take what was put in it. Yeshua then said, "Let her alone. She has kept this for the day of my burial. For the poor you have with you always, but me you do not have always." Then a great crowd of Yehudim learned that he was there, and they came, not on account of Yeshua only, but also to see Eleazar, whom he had raised from the dead. And the chief priests resolved to kill Eleazar as well, because on account of him many of the Yehudim went away and believed in Yeshua. On the next day, a great crowd who had come to the festival, when they heard that Yeshua was coming to Jerusalem, took the branches of the palm trees and went out to meet him, and were crying out, "Hoshiana, Blessed is he who is coming in the name of Yahweh, the sovereign of Israel. And Yeshua, having found a young donkey, sat on it, as it has been written. Do not fear, daughter of Zion. See, your sovereign is coming, sitting on the colt of a donkey. At first, his taught ones did not understand this, but when Yeshua was esteemed, then they remembered that this was written about him, and they found what he had done.
Amen.
And this was to be him.
Amen. All right, he who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless James, who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, James is going to take us from verse 17 to 33. If its light's on, it's off. There you go. No, the light, just push it. Yeah, there you go.
Therefore the crowd who were with him when he called Eleazar out of the tomb and raised him from the dead were bearing witness. On account of this, the crowd also met him, because they heard that he had done this sign. The Pharisees then said among themselves, you see how you are getting nowhere at all. Look, the world has gone after him. And there were certain Greeks among those coming up to worship at the festival. These then came to Philip, who was from Bethsaida of Galilee, and were asking him, saying, Master, we wish to see Yeshua. Philip came and told Andrew, and in turn Andrew and Philip told Yeshua. And Yeshua answered them, saying, the hour has come for the Son of Adam to be esteemed. Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit. He who loves his life shall lose it, and he who hates his life in this world shall preserve it for everlasting life. If anyone serves me, let him follow me, and where I am, where my servants also shall be. If anyone serves me, the Father shall value him. Now I myself am troubled, and what shall I say? Father, save me from this hour. But for this reason I came to this hour. Father, esteem your name. Then voice came from heaven, I have both esteemed it and shall esteem it again. So the crowd who stood by and heard it were saying there had been thunder. Others said, a messenger has spoken to him. Yeshua answered and said, this voice did not come because of me, but for your sake. Now is the judgment of this world. Now the rulers of this world shall be cast out. And I, if I am lifted up from the earth, shall draw all men unto myself. And he said, signifying by what death he was about to die.
Amen. Amen. All right, to make this easier, just so when you come up, I will be giving you the mic already on. It'll make things just more clear and easy. Okay, David, come up. Okay, he who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless David, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, David's going to take us from verse 34 to the end of chapter 12.
The crowd answered him, we have heard out of the Torah that the Messiah remains forever. And how do you say the son of Adam has to be lifted up? Who is this son of Adam? Yeshua therefore said to them, yet a little while the light is with you. Walk while you have the light, lest darkness overtake you. And he who walks in darkness does not know where he is going. While you have the light, believe in the light, so that you become sons of light. These words Yeshua spoke, and went off, and was hidden from them. But though he had done so many signs before them, they did not believe in him, that the word of Yeshayahu, the Navi, the prophet, might be fulfilled, which he spake, Adonai, who has believed our report, and to whom has the arm of Yud-Heh-Vav been revealed? Because of this, they were unable to believe, because again Yeshayahu said, he has blinded their eyes and hardened their heart, so that they should not see with their eyes and understand with their heart and turn, and I should heal them. Yeshayahu said this when he saw his esteem and spoke of him. Still, even among the rulers, many did believe in him, but because of the Pharisees they did not confess, him, lest they should be put out of the congregation. For they love the praise of men more than the praise of Elohim. Then Yeshua cried out and said, He who believes in me believes not in me, but in him who sent me. And he who sees me sees him who sent me. I have come as a light into the world, so that no one who believes in me should stay in darkness. And if anyone hears my words, but does not watch over them, I do not judge him. For I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world. He who rejects me and does not receive my words has one who judges him. The word that I have spoken shall judge him in the last day. Because I spoke not from myself, but the Father who sent me has given me a command, what I should say and what I should speak. And I know that his command is everlasting life. Therefore, whatever I speak, as the Father has said to me, so I speak.
Amen. Amen. Okay, next up, Sam. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Sam, who's come down to Yahweh and the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, chapter 13, verses 1 through 17.
And before the festival of the Pesach, Yeshua, knowing that his hour had come, that he should move out of this world unto the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. And supper taking place, the devil having already put into the heart of Yehuda from Kerioth, son of Shimon, to deliver him up, Yeshua, knowing that the Father had given all into his hands, and that he had come from Elohim and was going to Elohim, rose up from supper and laid aside his garments, and having taken a towel, he girded himself. After that, he put water into a basin and began to wash the feet of the taught ones, and to wipe them with the towel with which was girded. And so he came to Shimon Kepha, and he said to him, Master, do you wash my feet? Yeshua answered and said to him, You do not know what I am doing now, but you shall know after this. Kepha said to him, By no means shall you wash my feet, ever. Yeshua answered him, If I do not wash you, you have no part with me. Shimon Kepha said to him, Master, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head. Yeshua said to him, He who has had a bath does not need to wash except his feet, but is clean altogether. And you are clean, but not all of you. For he knew who would deliver him up, so he said, You are not all clean. So when he had washed their feet and taken his garments and sat down again, he said to them, Do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and master, and you say, Well, for I am. Then if I, master and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I gave you an example that you should do as I have done to you. Truly, truly I say to you, a servant is not greater than his master, nor is an emissary greater than he who sent him. If you know these teachings, blessed are you if you do them.
Amen. Amen. Okay, next up, Shira. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Shira, who's come down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, Shira is going to continue us here in chapter 13 and take us from verse 18 to the end of the chapter.
I do not speak concerning all of you. I know who I have chosen, but that the scripture might be filled, he who eats bread with me has lifted up his heel against me. Now I say to you before it takes place, that when it does take place, you shall believe that I am. Truly, truly I say to you, he who receives whomever I send receives me. And he who receives me receives him who sent me. When Yeshua had said this, he was troubled in spirit and witnessed and said, Truly, truly, I say to you, one of you shall deliver me up. The taught ones looked at one another, doubting of whom he spoke. And one of his taught ones, whom Yeshua loved, was reclining on the bosom of Yeshua. Shimon Kepha then motioned to him to ask who it was of whom he spoke. And leaning back on the breast of Yeshua, he said to him, Master, who is it? Yeshua answered, It is he to whom I shall give a piece of bread when I have dipped it. And having dipped the bread, he gave it to Yehuda from Keriot, son of Shimon. And after the piece of bread, Hasatan entered into him. Yeshua therefore said to him, What you do quickly. But no one at the table knew why he said this to him, for some were supposing, because Yehuda had the bag, that Yeshua was saying to him, Buy what we need for the festival, or that he should give somewhat to the poor. So having received the piece of bread, he then went out straightway, and it was night. When therefore he went out, Yeshua said, Now the Son of Adam has been esteemed, and Elohim has been esteemed in him. If Elohim has been esteemed in him, Elohim shall also esteem him in himself, and straightway esteem him. Little children, yet a little while I am with you. You shall seek me, and as I said to the Yehudim, where I am going, you are unable to come. I now also say to you, a renewed command I give to you, that you love one another, as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this shall all know that you are my taught ones, if you have love for one another. Shimon Kepha said to him, Master, where are you going? Yeshua answered to him, Where I am going, you are unable to follow me now, but afterwards you shall follow me. Kepha said to him, Master, why am I unable to follow you now? I shall lay down my life for you. Yeshua answered him, Shall you lay down your life for me? Truly, truly, I say to you, the cock shall not crow at all until you have denied me 3 times.
Amen. Thank you, Shira. Okay, Pat. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Pat, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. That is set apart one, bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. And may I compliment your choice of shirt today? Okay. Pat's going to take us now into chapter 14 and read verses 1 through 14.
Let not your heart be troubled. Believe in Elohim. Believe also in me. In my Father's house are many staying places, and if not, I would not have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I shall come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, you might be too. And where I go, you know, and the way you know. Thomas said to him, Master, we do not know where you are going, and how are we able to know the way? Yeshua said to him, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you had known me, you would have known my Father too. From now on, you know him and have seen him. Philip said to him, Master, show us the Father, and it is enough for us. Yeshua said to him, Have I been with you so long, and you have not known me, Philip? He who has seen me has seen the Father. And how do you say, Show us the Father? Do you not believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me? The words that I speak to you, I do not speak from myself, but the Father who says to me does his work. Believe me, and I am the Father, that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me. Otherwise, believe me because of the works themselves. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he shall also do, and greater works than these he shall do, because I go to my Father. And whatever you ask in my name, then I shall do in order that the Father might be esteemed in the Son. If you ask whatever in my name, I shall do it.
Amen. Thank you, Pat. Oh, I forgot my papers. Hold on. Okay, so next up we have Nate. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Nate who's come up down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set apart one bless him and his family and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, Nate's going to continue in chapter 14 from reading verse 15 to the end of the chapter.
If you love me, you shall guard my commands. And I shall ask the Father, and he shall give you another helper to stay with you forever. The Spirit of the truth, whom the world is unable to receive because it does not see him or know him. But you know him, for he stays with you, and shall be in you. And I shall not leave you orphans. I am coming to you. Yet a little while, and the world no longer sees me. But you shall see me, because I live, and you shall live. In that day you shall know that I am in the Father, and you in me, and I in you. He who possesses my commands and guards them, it is he who loves me. And he who loves me shall be loved by my Father, and I shall love him, and manifest myself to him. Yehuda, not the one from Kirioth, said to him, Master, what has come about that you are about to manifest yourself to us, and not to the world? Yeshua answered him, If anyone loves me, he shall guard my word, and my Father shall love him, and we shall come to him and make our stay with him. He who does not love me does not guard my words, and the word which you hear is not mine, but of the Father who sent me. These words I have spoken to you while still with you. But the Helper, the set-apart Spirit, whom the Father shall send in my name, he shall teach you all, and remind you of all that I said to you. Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you. I do not give to you as the world gives. Do not let your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. You heard that I said to you, I am going away and I'm coming to you. If you did love me, you would have rejoiced that I said I am going to the Father, for my Father is greater than I. And now I have told you before it takes place, that when it does take place, you shall believe. I shall no longer talk much with you, for the ruler of this world is coming, and he possesses none at all in me. But in order for the world to know that I love the Father, and that as the Father commanded me, so I am doing. Rise up, let us go from here.
Amen. Amen. Okay, I've got 4 more readings. I've got 3 people. Okay, so we'll need 1 more. Okay, Amy's coming up, so good. So we'll have all 4 spots. You're going to read out of this one? Okay, good. Yep, right there's fine. Okay. He who blessed our fathers Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Helen Sue, who's come up to honor Yahweh and the Torah. May the set apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to take us now from into chapter 15 and read the first 15 verses.
I am the true vine, and my Father is the gardener. Every branch in me that bears no fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes, so that it bears more fruit. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Stay in me, and I stay in you. As the branch is unable to bear fruit of itself unless it stays in the vine, so neither you unless you stay in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who stays in me and I in him, he bears much fruit, because without me you are able to do naught. If anyone does not stay in me, he is thrown away as a branch and dries up. And they gather them and throw them into the fire, and they are burned. If you stay in me and my words stay in you, you shall ask whatever you wish, and it shall be done for you. In this my Father is esteemed, that you bear much fruit, and you shall be my taught ones. As the Father has loved me, I have also loved you. Stay in my love. If you guard my commands, you shall stay in my love, even as I have guarded my Father's commands and stay in his love. These words I have spoken to you, so that my joy might be in you, and that your joy might be complete. This is my command, that you love one another as I have loved you. No one has greater love than this, that one should lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do whatever I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for a servant does not know what his master is doing. But I have called you friends, for all teachings which I heard from my Father I have made known to you.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. Now, while Tamara is coming up here, by the way, somebody left a black MTY shirt on the floor by the chairs the other day, so if that belongs to anybody, please come see me after this, but maybe before lunch. Okay. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Tamara, who has come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. And again, this is the proud mama of the bride. Okay. All right, Tamara is going to take us from verse 16 to 27, to the end of chapter 15. Verse 16 to 27.
You did not choose me, but I chose you, and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit shall remain, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he might give you. These words I command you, so that you love one another. If the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. But because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, for that reason the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they shall persecute you too. If they have guarded my word, they would guard yours too. But all this they shall do to you because of my name, because they do not know him who sent me. If I had not come and spoken to them, they would have no sin, but now they have no excuse for their sin. He who hates me hates my Father as well. If I did not do among them the works which no one else did, they would have no sin. But now they have both seen and have hated both me and my Father. But that the word might be filled, which was written in their Torah, they hated me without a cause. And when the Helper comes, whom I shall send to you from the Father, the Spirit of the truth, who comes from the Father, he shall bear witness of me. But you also bear witness, because you have been with me from the beginning.
Amen. Amen. All right, thank you, Tamara. Okay, we have two more. Rick, come on up. You're going to take us into chapter 16. Come around this side. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Rick, who's come up to honor Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless him and his family, and send blessing and prosperity on all the works of his hands. Amen. Okay, take us into chapter 16 and read the first 16 verses. Have you noticed the pattern here? 14 was 14 verses, 15 was 15 verses. I didn't know why I did that, but that's funny. Okay, anyway. Verses 1 through 16.
These words have I spoken to you, so that you do not stumble. They shall put you out of the congregations, but an hour is coming when everyone who kills you shall think he is rendering service to Elohim. And this they shall do to you, because they did not know the Father, nor me. But I have said these words to you, so that when the hour comes, you remember that I told them to you. And these words I did not say to you at the beginning, for I was with you. But now I go away to him who sent me. And not one of you asks me, where are you going? But because I have said these words to you, grief has filled your heart. But I say the truth to you. It is better for you that I go away, for if I do not go away, the Helper shall not come to you at all. But if I go, I shall send him to you. And having come, he shall convict the world concerning sin, and concerning righteousness, and concerning judgment, concerning sin because they do not believe in me, concerning righteousness because I go to my Father, and you see me no more, concerning judgment because the ruler of this world is judged. I still have many words to say to you, but you are not able to bear them now. But when he comes, the Spirit of truth, he shall guide you into all the truth. For he shall not speak from himself, but whatever he hears he shall speak, and he shall announce to you what is to come. He shall esteem me, for he shall take of what is mine and announce it to you. All that the Father has is mine. That is why I said that he takes from what is mine and announces it to you. A little while, and you do not see me, and again a little while, and you shall see me.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Rick. Okay, our last reader, Amy. You can read out of yours? Okay, then I don't have to turn the page. He who blessed our fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, may he bless Amy, who's come down to Yahweh in the Torah. May the set-apart one bless her and her family, and send blessing and prosperity in all the works of her hands. Amen. Okay, you're going to complete the readings by taking us in chapter 16 from verse 17 to the end of the chapter.
Therefore some of his taught ones said to one another, "What is this that he says to us? A little while, and you do not see me, and again a little while, and you shall see me, and because I'm going to the Father." So they said, "What is this that he says, a little while? We do not know what he is saying." Yeshua therefore knew what they were wishing to ask him, and he said to them, "Are you asking one another about what I said? A little while, and you do not see me, and again a little while, and you shall see me? Truly, truly, I say to you that you shall weep and lament, but the world shall rejoice, and you shall be grieved, but your grief shall become joy. The woman has grief when she is in labor, because her hour has come, but as soon as she has given birth to the child, she no longer remembers the affliction, for joy that a man was born into the world. And you therefore have grief now, but I shall see you again, and your heart shall rejoice, and no one takes your joy away from you. And in that day you shall ask me none at all. Truly, truly, I say to you, whatever you ask the Father in my name, he shall give you. Until now you have asked not in my name. Ask, and you shall receive, in order that your joy may be complete. These words I have spoken to you in figures of speech. But an hour is coming when I shall no longer speak to you in figures of speech, but I shall declare the Father plainly to you. In that day you shall ask in my name, and I do not say to you that I shall pray the Father on your behalf, for the Father himself does love you, because you have loved me and have believed that I have come forth from Elohim. I came forth from the Father, and I have come into the world. Again I leave the world and go to the Father. His taught one said to him, "See, now you're speaking plainly and not using figures of speech. Now we know that you know all and have no need that anyone should question you. By this we believe that you came forth from Elohim." Yeshua answered them, "Do you now believe? See, an hour is coming and has now come that you are scattered each to his own and leave me alone. Yet I am not alone, because the Father is with me. These words I have spoken to you, that in me you might have peace. In the world you have pressure, but take courage. I have overcome the world."
Amen and hallelujah. There we go, no problem. Well, that should be encouraging right there. That's a great way to end the sort of readings for today. You know, having him just remind us that he has overcome. He knows we have pressure, but he has overcome the world. So we should take courage. Amen. Okay, who's going to be taking the mic around today? We've got 2 mics. Okay, Trey's got 1. Okay. David's coming around to get the other one. Okay, good. Marty? Oh, you're raising your hand for the mic. Okay, someone can get the mic over to Marty first. David's coming around. Okay, so the way this works, okay, we'd like that if you are going to make a comment or ask a question that you do stand up. Make it easier for everyone. And also, these microphones are directional, which means that you have to kind of aim it directly at your mouth and put it near your mouth to actually have it work well. I know that could be a little confusing because I'm loud enough that if I put it away from my mouth, you can still hear me. But a lot of you get shy when you start talking on a microphone. Put it up near your mouth, aim it towards your mouth. Don't hold it like an ice cream cone, like from the side, like if you're going to go lick the cone, you know how you hold it that way? Point the mic towards your mouth. Okay, that'll really help so everyone can hear the comment or question because, hey, you may have a really important question or have a really cool comment that would really bless a lot of people. So we should make sure that we're able to hear that. All right, so chronologically is what we like to do. It is not required. So we'd like to cover John 12 through 16, but we want to see if we can get that flow as best we can starting in chapter 12. But if we need to jump around a little bit, that's okay. All right, Marty, go ahead and get us started. Oh.
My fault.
See, you might want to tell the sound man to turn on your mic. Oh,
yeah.
That's you.
So at the beginning of chapter 14,
yep.
There's when he says, "In my Father's house are many staying places."
Yep.
I guess that's where a lot of people get the idea of heaven and going somewhere else to be with him when all this is over. I didn't really buy into that, never really have, but I didn't understand what it meant. So at some point, I think I got a witness on that in Isaiah chapter 26 and the last two verses. And there is a time that in Revelation that's talked about that's the wrath of God. It's also known as the day of Yahweh, the awful day that he's going to rain his vengeance down. And I believe we're not going to be here during that time. We're going to be taken away for a short time while that wrath is coming down on everyone here on the earth. And in Isaiah here, I think we get a kind of a picture and a confirmation of John 14 when it says, "Come, my people, enter your chambers and shut your doors behind you. Hide yourselves for a little while until the fury has passed. For behold, Yahweh is coming out from his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity, and the earth will disclose the blood shed on it, and will no more cover it." Anyway, so I think to me that's when Yeshua is saying, "I go to prepare a place for you," and then Isaiah is saying something similar to that about the day, the wrath of Yahweh.
Okay, so let's be careful that we're not talking about a rapture here. We're talking about a place prepared. But also he says, the big difference, though, Marty, between Isaiah and what's happening in John is that Isaiah says, "Go to your chambers." So he's got a place for us here. But I think more, again, it's not an either or. It's not a right, wrong. A lot of times it's both when you look Hebraically. Yes, there will be that time of wrath where we're going to go to a chamber. He's going to cover us somehow, but I believe that's going to be here, just like Goshen during the Egyptian Exodus. They were in Goshen and they were protected. As a matter of fact, I really believe it's going to happen at a feast because we're already together. That's part of what he plans to do, to bring his people together. And then he'll just protect us where we are, and we'll just be... I tell people all the time, when you come to Sukkot, when you come to Pesach, come ready to stay a while. You just don't know, okay? Because we may need to stay a while. And it's good to have each other together, and it's not that Yahweh needs convenience, but it's certainly convenient to protect his people when they're already together. After all, Israel was together in Goshen, okay? So, but the idea of preparing a place, he says, now let's kind of follow the verses here in 14, and thank you, by the way, for going chronologically and jumping to chapter 14. Okay? He says, "In my Father's house," in verse 2, "are many staying places, and if not, I would have told you so. I go to prepare a place for you. If I go and prepare a place for you, I shall come again and receive you to myself." Now, this is where they kind of get this rapture-y sounding stuff, but let's follow what he's saying here. I got a place that I prepared for you. I'm going to come and receive you to myself. Listen now, that where I am, you might be, right? So where I am, you might be too, and where I go, you know, and the way you know. Now, so this goes back to the whole dealing with the whole rapture idea. Okay, we are told that Yeshua is going to return. Can we all agree? All Christianity agrees, right? Okay, but what are we told will happen when Yeshua returns? I know we like this whole rapture idea, but all the other verses, except for whatever people want to read into this idea of a rapture, say that when he comes, what's going to happen? First of all, everyone will see him. And he's going where? The Mount of Olives, and it's going to split. Okay, so nowhere in that sequence does it say he's going to come, second coming, grab everybody, leave, come again, third coming, and then land on the Mount of Olives and have it split. So I think that while Isaiah may be talking about some of these things, because I know he has a way and an idea prepared for us, because he says he doesn't allow anything to happen to you without a way of escape being provided. So he has something prepared for us. But I think ultimately it's talking about Revelation 21, when the place he's prepared for us and the New Jerusalem comes here, and we get to now dwell in that place that he has prepared for us. He's preparing the New Jerusalem to come here. So hopefully that makes some sense, okay? But now to this whole idea of a rapture, look, he says very simply, I'm coming to receive you that where I am, you might be too. He didn't say that you're going to heaven. He said that you're going to be with him. So that simply means that we're going to be wherever he goes. And so you simply have to ask the question, where is he going? And he actually even said that a couple of times. He said, have you asked where I'm going? Okay? And so where is he going? Well, we know when he comes, we have to connect all the pieces of that puzzle together, right? When he comes, a couple of things are going to happen. First of all, we know everybody's going to see him, and he's headed to the Mount of Olives. We also know that it says that those who are in him and those who died in him will be what? Raised and changed from corruptible to incorruptible. And there's this idea of being caught up and meeting him in the sky. Meeting him. Not just going to him, but meeting him. Okay, let's say that you live in Knoxville, okay, and we're coming to this feast site, all right, and I live in Nashville, let's say that you live in Nashville, and I live in Chattanooga, and we're coming here, and I tell you that we'll meet in Knoxville. So you're going to meet me in Knoxville. Am I going to now take you back to Chattanooga? No, I'm going somewhere, and I'll tell you, you can meet me on my way there. You understand what I'm saying? Because I'm kind of picking places that can kind of connect together. So it's meeting him. So we're going to meet him, and thankfully in incorruptible bodies, going toward, what's going to happen when after the mountain splits? The worst battle of all time. The armies of the world will be gathered against Jerusalem. Okay, by the way, this is all from where? Where do we read about this? Where? Come on, Zechariah 14. Okay, so if we're in Zechariah 14, interestingly enough, it never mentions Yeshua, unless the Yahweh being mentioned is Yeshua. This is part of that do you know the Father and the Son teaching. Because it says in chapter 14, verse 2, and I shall gather all the Gentiles. Actually, go to verse 1. See, a day shall come for Yahweh, and your spoil shall be divided in your midst. So the day of Yahweh, that great and awesome day, we know that's leading to that's the big end time event day. I shall gather all the Gentiles to battle against Jerusalem. And then it goes to verse 3, and Yahweh shall go forth, and he shall fight against the Gentiles as he fights in the day of battle. And in that day his feet shall stand on the Mount of Olives, which faces Jerusalem on the east, and the Mount of Olives shall split in two. And so we know this is Yeshua returning. But he's going to be returning in the same form he started out in when he worked with us from creation. The Yahweh form, the Almighty, the El Shaddai form. And he's going to come here with his rod of iron, and it's not going to be a pretty battle. What does it say about that battle? Blood up to the bridles. I mean, it's going to be terrible. And so thankfully, we will not be in the flesh suit. May we all, merit that favor, so to speak. Okay? All right? So here we are in John. And so what is he talking about? He's saying, where I am, you might be too. So wherever he goes, we're going to be going with him. That doesn't mean necessarily that he's just going to come, grab us, and snatch us off to heaven. We're just going to go where he goes. Guess what? We're his disciples. What do disciples do? We follow him where he goes. Now, the conversation that's going on in here is going to lead into the idea, or has already started from the idea of, well, why can't we go with you where you're going now? He said, well, you can't go now, but when I come, you'll go where I go. I'm going to prepare something for you, and when that time comes, then you will follow me, and you'll go everywhere I go, wherever that is. We also know he's going to rule and reign from Jerusalem, so we're going to be ending up in a place from there. Now, he may then do what he did with his taught ones in the fleshly reign that he had, where he sent them out. And so he'll take us. We talked about this the other day. He may take us and send us out to work with those that are the remnant to survive the tribulation. Okay, we didn't record this as part of the Midrash the other night. Okay, but we may have that going on. So let's be careful when we look at these things and say, wow, we could easily fall right back into what our pastors have always told us a verse is, instead of just reading what it says. So remember a rule we talked about during the Midrash the other night. Let's first agree to what it says. It says, and receive you to myself, that where I am, you might be too. So the simple idea is that where he goes or where he is, we're going to be. Then we have to figure out where he's going. So now you are free to make a case for why you think he's going here or there. You see, that's kind of the Midrashic thing. But it doesn't say he's going back to heaven. It doesn't say where he's going at all. There are other verses that tell us where he's going. Because after all, we know he's leaving the earth here. He's about to leave from the flesh journey when it's finished, and then he's going to be coming back. And that's what he's referring to here, is when he comes back. All right? So hopefully that's going to make some sense, because that was actually in my notes to cover John verses 14, 3 through 4. So let me just kind of mark off that I covered that. All right? Okay, thank you for that question, Marty. It's a good one, because there are things that need to be addressed there about this idea of rapture. Okay? Yes, we will be caught up in the sky on his way somewhere. All right? So we're all going to rise up to him as he's going like a meteor straight for Jerusalem. And we're going to get changed and meet him right there in the sky, right to the battle. That seems, at least to me, to match the full pieces of the puzzle. Okay, so I'm not teaching this as fact. I'm saying when I look at the puzzle, that's what makes the most sense to me when you add all the pieces together, okay? Because I think we've all had enough speculation being taught as fact. Okay? So when I put it together, that's what I see. That's the picture that I see forming with all the pieces. Just remember, do not leave pieces in the box. That's where you end up in trouble, okay? All right, where's the mic? Okay, on this side, Janice?
Going back to chapter 12, verses 27 through 30, where Yeshua is talking, Father, save me from this hour. Father, esteem your name. And then there's thunder and a voice. Is everybody hearing the voice, or is it just Yeshua?
Well, it seems to me when you read the verse, they heard thunder. And they think a messenger's talking to them, because they're assuming that that's the nature. The thunder may have sounded like somebody speaking, but it's more likely that only Yeshua heard this. And so the people are speculating. So the crowd who stood by and heard it said there had been thunder. Others said a messenger had spoken to him. Now, if they had heard it and understood the context, they would have understood what was happening. So our best guess is that they didn't understand what was being said. But it was of a nature that it sounded like a booming voice. Okay? So the best, and again, there's parts of the Do You Know the Father and Son teaching where we wonder and understand, when, the sky opens up and you have this voice, this is my son in whom, well, some of those places when you read it, it says Yeshua heard it. Okay, just like what happened to Paul when he got his experience, the people around him didn't hear it, only he heard it. Okay, and when Balaam is dealing with the donkey, so he's hearing it. And so we're having and only the donkey's only seeing. I mean, not everybody involved in a space when something's happening is either seeing, hearing, or experiencing the same thing. And so we have to be very careful of who we kind of connect into those stories as being the ones who are perceiving. So that's a good question there. Appreciate that. Okay, next, Kurt.
There's a comment from Yanni, verse John 13:27. When Yeshua gave Yehuda the bread, he said, "What you do quickly." This shows Satan needs permission from us to act, otherwise he can't do anything.
Okay. See, one of the things that's going on in here, and it's, let's look at verse 2 of chapter 13. I was going to kind of cover this. I wasn't sure if I was going to, but I thought someone might bring it up. And supper taking place, the devil having already put it in the heart of Yehuda Kiriath. Now, that would seem to go against what I've said about the devil not being the instigator. But that also matches my point when it says that Yahweh hardened Pharaoh's heart. Here's the same thing. Yehuda had a problem what was going on. He was not happy with the way Yeshua was being Mashiach. He had an expectation of Yeshua doing things differently if he was Mashiach. So the devil, as the opportunist, was encouraging him to do something, which comes from where? Where does all that drive come from? The heart, right? A thought, which Yehuda had. Okay, the devil didn't put that thought in there. He just strengthened his heart to go and act in the direction he really wanted to go. So let's understand that's from verse 2. So then when Yeshua turns to him, he's like, look, I know what you're going to do. You know what you're going to do. Let's just get it over with. So I don't know it's so much giving permission. This was already going to happen. Yeshua knew it was going to happen before they ever showed up in Jerusalem. Right? Because he said over and over again for a while before they got there, I'm going to show up, they're going to arrest me, and he knew how it was going to play out. So it's kind of like, look, let's just get this over with. Go do what you got to do. So I think it's more of that, Yanni, than needing permission. Now, of course, from a bigger picture, Yahweh allows or causes. So there was already an allowance for this. Okay, Yahweh already knew, Yeshua already knew that this was going to play out from the foundation of the world. He said, the Lamb that gives his life they knew this from before they started, this was going to happen. And so he allowed it to happen. You know, it says that the Father, he said, had to allow his only Son to be offered up, to be killed, to be sacrificed, so to speak, to be, well, not so much sacrifice, I know we get that whole idea, but to allow himself to be killed. And so, for God so loved the world, right? So he allowed it. He knew it was going to happen. And we've talked about that before as far as, you know, the way I describe the before time conversation between father and son. And I'll say it now again in case somebody never heard it before. You know, I believe that they had a conversation before, and kind of like a son going up to the father saying, hey, Dad, I got a great idea. I got this project I want to do. I want to build this universe and this world and people and all this stuff. And the father saying, that's okay. I get it. That's great. Father sees the end from the beginning. He says, but by the way, your ultimate goal here, you tell me, is to live forever with these people. And because of the substance that I am, we can't have sin or death involved. They're going to mess it up. If you want this to work out, you're going to have to be willing to die. I've got to be willing to let you. I mean, this whole thing had to be discussed and agreed to before the foundation of the world. And that's why he says he was slain before the foundation of the world. Not that he literally was slain, but it had been arranged, ordained, and agreed to that that would happen. And so that process had already been agreed to. So that's my way of seeing how that all played out, pre-creating anything. That's the John 1:1 verses. In the beginning was. Okay, the Word, and the Word was Elohim, the Word was with Elohim. And I believe they were having this kind of discussion to plan this all out, knowing the end from the beginning and how this would play out. So, yes, Yeshua at this point is saying to Judah, hey, Judah, do what you've got to do. Do it quickly. It's time. Okay, no problem. I get it. This has to happen. Okay? And so we have that going on. Okay, hopefully that deals with that comment. Okay, Dawid?
Related, just wanted to bring out the fact that it's possibly in another gospel. I'm terrible with references, but the point is that when the woman brought the box of fragrant oils and anointed him with probably unknowing before his death, Yehuda was right there making a fuss about her bringing this and wasting it, in essence, on his feet, and instead of selling it and going and giving it to the poor or something like that. And he goes into it at that spot where it says basically he didn't ask this because he was concerned about the poor, but because he was a thief. And so, and when Yeshua rebuked him and basically said, no, this is okay. At that point, it says specifically, if I remember correctly, that he went out and started negotiating with the rulers because he was dissatisfied with the way Yeshua was handling it, supporting what you're saying.
Yeah.
So Hasatan was already working with something that was already in Yehuda.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And there's lots of places that we could see hints of this, etc. So that's part of the package. Okay, Pat? And
Yeah,
hold on one second. And Trey, can you just grab my cell phone's charging on my desk so I can have a clock? It's right on the other side of the printer there.
Yeah, I agree with David. That's what I was going to say, that his heart was not in the right place to begin with. And he was, right there he shows his true colors. Yehuda shows his true colors.
Absolutely.
And in that's in 13:25 when he, and also it's strange because when the disciples are asking in 13:25, show us the Father, and he says, have you not known me? You know, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. If you know me, you know the Father. And it seems like, didn't anybody see that Judah was really not where he should have been by the colors that he's shown? But then here they're questioning our Savior if he's really who he is still, you know?
Yeah, there was there was enough doubt. Let's kind of peel this around. First of all, wheat and tares did not exempt even the disciples. Okay, he said the wheat and the tares grow up together. So you have Judas was obviously a tare in the middle of all that. In the meantime, you also have that as he's talking to them, they were not yet of full belief. Okay, we saw this when he was on the boat, and he said, when I return, will I even find belief? Because you guys, I'm right here and you're flipping out. And by the way, don't ever forget, when they're flipping out on the boat, this was not people that were not used to being on a boat. These are fishermen. So if they're freaking out, it was rough. Okay, this was pretty bad seas that they're sitting on, and a bad storm or whatever it was, because for them to be all nervous and they were used to being on a boat, it was pretty bad. But yet he's there and he's sleeping and he's like, hey, what's the problem? So then we have, as we go forward, okay, still they're not getting it. And how do we know? Because he told them many times, I'm going to go to Jerusalem. They're going to arrest me. They're going to kill me. I'm going to resurrect. And so why were they not all at the gravesite waiting for that to happen? Because they still had their doubts. They still had their fleshly concerns, their fleshly issues. Okay, they were not in full belief yet. Same thing with Kepha, and all of us are Kepha. Don't think any of us are not. And he said, oh, Master, I would lay down my life for you. And he goes, your life? You're going to deny me 3 times in the next couple of hours. I said, forget about your life. And so this is this is a strong, strong lesson for all of us. We talk real good. We talk the talk real good. But when push comes to shove, okay? And I say this over and over again. There are verses that talk about Yeshua considered it nothing to lay down his life knowing the esteem that he would receive. In other words, what was coming out of all that. But yet all of you are still dealing with your jobs, your family members, and other issues that are going to tempt you to break the commandments. All of you struggle with those things from time to time, or have family members that will pull you even though you're not struggling, but maybe your wife does, or your husband does, or your children do, and they're going to pull on you. And this is the time of year we're heading into where it gets much worse, because guess what's coming? Graduation time. I got so frustrated with the congregation 4 or 5 or 6 years ago because we had like half the people miss Sabbath one week, and I realized they're all at graduations. And I'm not mad at them. I'm frustrated with me thinking, what am I not doing? Because I'm going to blame myself, that they're not here. Am I not saying it loud enough, strong enough? Yeshua's feeling the same way here. Okay? And so we have this verses here about Kepha, Peter, so that we say, look, do you see, when you read Scripture, do you see yourself in it? Okay, because guess what? We have weddings, a lot of weddings in the spring. A lot of graduations in the spring. My wife missed every one of her graduations. She was raised a Sabbath keeper. You know what happened? She graduated anyway. They still gave her the certificate every time. Nobody said, I'm sorry, you didn't show up on Saturday, you don't get your certificate. She picked it up another day. But these things are coming. But you're going to have the threat of, oh, this is the rough one. It's your son or daughter's child, and you're a grandparent, and they're going to say, oh, what's that going to do to you? It's going to devastate your grandchild not being there at their graduation, and I'm never going to talk to you again. Because this stuff is coming. Let's apply it right now to real life. Okay, I know it's hard enough dealing with Christmas, Easter, that kind of things. What about really this other stuff that's coming right now in the spring? It is April. A lot of schools graduate in May or in June. Pretty much everybody is covered in those 2 months. And most of them are going to do what? Saturday. Because it's convenient from a worldly perspective. And what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Are you going to deny him by your choices and decisions? Those are those moments. How many times did we hear in these 3 or 4 chapters the word guard and the word commands connected to it? If you guard my word, if you guard my commands, if you guard. Is it guarding all? Is it actually, what does guard mean anyway? Standing guard, you picture like the military guy with the gun or the sword or whatever, standing in front of a person or a place saying, no harm will come over here. I am protecting it. You will not trespass. You will not pass go. You will not collect $200. Whatever. All right? But picture those guards standing in front of Buckingham Palace, and they're there, and that's it. You're not going through unless you're supposed to. Do we guard the commands and watch over them to make sure that they're not trespassed? Okay? I like the word trespass actually, because it means that you have done something and tread on or touched or done something with something that does not belong to you, that you have no business doing. And so if you're supposed to be, and we're created to be and called to be a Sabbath keeper, and you start doing something that you're not supposed to do, you're trespassing and stepping on all over that Sabbath. You're trampling underfoot. So let's be aware. Let's be careful, because this is coming right now. That season is coming. And more of you that have children, that are going to have children eventually in school, and they're going to graduate and things, you're going to have these problems. But Rabbi, what do I do? Stop asking me that when you already know what to do. How about growing up? I know everybody gets mad. I'm all tough on everybody. That's the whole point. Somebody needs to be tough on you. Don't come to me and say, what do I do? When you know what to do, you just don't like the fact that if you do it, the consequences are going to happen. So you're asking me, how do I do and not receive the consequences? Well, you can't. That's a cheery message for you. Take that, go home with it. Don't make me get Tony to show up, because if Tony Tanakh shows up, he's going to be like, forget about it. Be strong and of good courage, because of the reward that awaits you is not worth the suffering. Is worth more than the suffering of this world. Why would he say that unless he expected you to suffer pretty good? Why would he say that unless he knew it was going to be tough? We listened to too much of that gospel nonsense on Sundays that we heard growing up, that if you just come to Jesus, everything will be wonderful. Butterflies flying out of your belly button, diamonds falling into your hands. Everybody's just going to think everything's wonderful. Life will be perfect. I don't know what they're smoking, but it's not in this book. Maybe they're rolling up the book and smoking the book. I don't know. A couple of pages and make a pretty big blunt. I don't know. You can just roll this up and... I don't know what they're doing. Did that come out loud? Some of the guys are like, I can't believe, what is Rabbi doing here? If I don't make it that absurd, you won't get it. Okay? There's a reason for my humor. There's a reason for my getting extreme, is because you have to get it. You have to see how ridiculous it is. He never promised you any of that stuff in this body, in this flesh suit. That stuff that he promised you is when this is no longer the body you have. But you have to qualify. Oh, that's not being saved by works. Salvation is made available to you free. We're going to talk about that more tomorrow. But the works determine what? Your reward. Can we all agree that eternal life is a reward? You merit that favor. The Jewish community gets this so well because they talk in almost every conversation. They talk about the Creator. They talk about, or in a conversation, they'll say things like, may you merit his favor. May we do things that merit him smiling down on you. They understand doing things to please him. It is not pleasing to him when you don't guard his commands. If you love me, guard my commands. And I'm saying in all these chapters here, we see over and over and over the idea of guarding. He says it over. Guess what? In the Tanakh, doesn't he talk the same way? It's the same one. Yeshua doesn't talk any different in the New Testament than he did as the Yahweh of the Old Testament. In the Old Testament, he says, I want you, here's our covenant. I speak, you do. You guard after what I do. And he says it over and over and over. Deuteronomy 10:12. Hey, we haven't used that one yet this week. Really, that's strange. We should have been using this a lot. Okay? Moses says, and now Israel, what does Yahweh want of you? But to love him, to fear him. So we got to start right. Fear him, walk in all his ways, love him, and then what? Guard his commands. Fear him, walk in his ways, love him, serve him, guard his commands. Okay, there's your process right there. That's the order that we do. We start with fear. We start walking it out. We realize how much he loves us because we realize walking it out blesses us. We fall deeply in love with him. We want to serve him and guard his commands. But always the word guard is in there. Why? Because he doesn't want you to be lackadaisical with it. We're told to do your utmost. We're told to love him with what? All heart, being, strength, etc. All that you have. And then what happens? Well, if you don't come to the graduation, I'm not talking to you ever again. Well, boo. It's like the person goes boo and you jump. Well, I'm not afraid of anything. Boo. Ah! Oh, running away like a scared little kid. That's when you turn to your child and say, I understand where you're coming from. I know you're not happy with this decision. But I have to walk out my own salvation in fear and trembling. And it's not against you. And I'm not trying to hurt your feelings. I'm not trying to disappoint you or your child or my grandchild or whatever it is. I'd love to come and be there and do something special, but they happen to choose a day I can't be there. Talk to them. Don't fight with them and argue with them. Acknowledge and validate how angry they are. I know you're angry. I get it. You're disappointed. Some of them you've told well in advance that you're not going, and then when it really comes down to it, they figure you're not going to hold up to that. Are you a hypocrite? That's leaven. Did you get the leaven out? This is not, who promised you in here that this was going to be easy? Now, he says the yoke is easy. In other words, it's not easy stuff to do, but you live in a world where it's not easy to do this easy thing. How many times have you ever gone to do anything that was easy, but other people were involved and made it really hard? And mostly because they wanted to help you. Please don't help. I'll get it done in half the time. Let me do this myself. Okay? But while it should be easy, it's not. Why? Because we have people involved. People make it hard. People make it very hard. Does that help? Does that make any sense? Okay? I mean, okay, look, are you playing with this or are you living it? Okay? We talked about this many times. We haven't said it probably this week. Are you a human doing or a human being Torah observant? Doing is not being. Okay? You ask an Orthodox observant Jew, why do you keep the Torah? And they'll look at you like, I don't understand the question. It's because it's like asking a bird why it flies. Okay? Why do you fly? I'm a bird. See, we laugh when that's said, right? Hey, fish, why do you swim? I'm a fish. Hey, human, why do you keep Torah? Because I'm a human. That's what we're supposed to do. Okay? And so until you embrace it as that's your default functioning way to function, you're going to think of it as something you do, which means that it's also something you can not do. It can be something you don't do. Instead of when something you are. How many times have you said to somebody, well, that's just the way I am? Nobody has that t-shirt? I got a closet full. Well, it's just the way I am. Too bad, right? Well, it's just the way I am. You know what? The next time someone invites you to something that shouldn't be done on Sabbath, and they say, well, how come you can't come? You say, because that's just the way I am. I'm Torah observant. I was created to be Torah observant. It's who I am. It's not something I do. Maybe that was the big takeaway from the morning. Stop having it be something you do. Have it be who you are. Because if it's who you are, there's no thought. I'll give you an example. Some of you are violently allergic to something. Okay? Now, can I guilt you or prod you or whatever to make you eat that thing that you're violently allergic to? No way. You're just not going to do it. Not if I tell you I'm never going to talk to you again if you don't eat it, or if I'm going to do this or that. You're not going to go kill yourself or put yourself at that risk eating something that you have I'm talking about deathly violent and allergic to. So you're not going to touch it or put it in your mouth, are you? So how come you can make that stand, but you can't make this one? Well, because that one's more real to you. Let's be honest now, isn't it? That's more real to you. This has to become real to you. If it's real, there's no thought, there's no choice. Okay? My family gets it now, and not because they're Jewish, they don't keep anything. All right? But if they go to ask me to do something and I remind them it's a Torah issue, there's no argument, no discussion after that point, because I've already shown them I will not budge. That's not to say there never was, but at this point, because of consistency, there's not even a thought in their mind that I will change my mind. All I need to do is tell them, no, that's Shabbat. No, that's during a holiday. My brother's twins bat mitzvahed, twin girls, during Sukkot a few years ago. Now, in the middle of the week, it would not have been a problem necessarily to go to that bat mitzvah, except that I was here running a Sukkot. And I told them, I have a responsibility. My mother was like, well, can't you just fly up, go to the bat mitzvah and come back? Because nothing wrong with going to a bat mitzvah. The party afterwards is a problem. Because bat mitzvah simply means that the child is running the Shabbat service. That's what they do. And so you're at Shabbat service and they're running the service instead of the normal person that would run it. Nothing wrong with that. However, the party afterwards could be a problem. I'll give you an example. One of my cousins invited me to their daughter's bat mitzvah. When my wife and I had first gotten married, my son was a little baby. We had him in a little stroller. And we went to the bat mitzvah. But we told them, because the party was right afterwards. Now, granted, it was in the winter and it wasn't that long till sundown. But we told them we will be there after the sun goes down. And so we went to the party after Shabbat was over. Now, we could have compromised because it probably only was an hour. Are you going to guard that hour? Actually, we have some verses about, where the disciples are sitting there supposed to be praying. He goes, you couldn't even make it an hour? You couldn't even watch for an hour? I mean, I could have compromised that hour. It might not even have been that long. Maybe half hour to an hour was short. But we said no. I told my wife, when I look outside and I tell you it's dark enough, we will go. Not that she wanted to go earlier. I said, that will be my decision, and then we will go. Do you draw that line? How about this temptation? I was at a conference, or I shouldn't say that. I was visiting, this is before I was in ministry. I was visiting a congregation, had a guest speaker come in. We came up to visit that congregation, and of all the people, because I had spoken to the leadership there about the speaker coming to find out where the hotels were and everything else, we got invited, Julie and I, to go to dinner after the meeting was over with the speaker. That's pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, right? Go to see a speaker, and you're going to get to go have some one-on-one time just with a few people at a dinner? Who would want to go to that? Everybody, right? But they went right after services about an hour and a half before sundown. And I didn't criticize them or judge them. I simply said, it's not sundown yet. Can we meet you after sundown? Would that be okay? And they kind of looked at me sideways, but they said, yeah, that would be fine. And we got there as they were eating dessert. So whatever time, you picture how long that would have been, right? Because by the time we got there, and it wasn't far away, but they were all already eating their dessert and we were ordering our food. But certainly the temptation for that little time would have been, well, you know, it's only an hour. And this is but this is a one-time opportunity. This is like an opportunity of a lifetime. No, you have an opportunity of a lifetime that hopefully will last forever. Don't blow it over some fleshly thing you think is an opportunity of a lifetime. Had a guy that really stopped coming after this happened, but I found out he got Vols tickets. Look, if you're a football fan in Tennessee or in any other southern state, a college football fan, and you're an alumni, if you're an alumnus of a college, how hard is it to get those tickets? It's almost impossible. So to somebody to hand you free tickets to a game on a Saturday, that could be really tempting. I found out he went. I didn't get mad at him, but I wasn't going to not give him a little poke about it. So when I saw him the next week, I said, hey, George, how was the game? What game? The Vols game. I know you went. Did they win? I didn't even know. I didn't even look it up. I didn't care. I grew up in New York. No, college football is almost non-existent in New York. Nobody cares. It's all pros. So I didn't have that college football fervor that people do, where they want to kill each other because their teams hate each other, and you know. I tried to understand college football's kind of fervor. I said, somebody explain it to me. So someone said, I'll tell you what, I live in Alabama, they said, and if you're an Alabama fan and you're driving through an Auburn town and that person at the gas station is an Auburn guy, they may not let you fill up. If they have your flags up on the car that say Alabama, or vice versa. I said, that's serious stuff. This is back when they would come out and pump your gas. Okay, not when you did it yourself. I said, really? They said, it can be that bad. But still, can you give up that fleshly opportunity? Because it's his day and his time? Wow, that was a lot about just one little question here. I guess it was important that we went that way. Okay? Where's the mic? Okay, in the back, let's go to Candace, and then we'll go to Tamara.
Okay, I love analogies because the Bible's full of them, but I'm going back to when you were talking about the Father talking to the Son about his upcoming death somewhere in future. I'm thinking about Abraham with Isaac. I don't believe Isaac was a little bitty boy when this happened. No. I believe Abraham talked to Isaac and talked to Isaac about, you know, Yahweh has said, I've got to offer you. But I do believe that he will come in and offer himself a sacrifice. So somewhere I feel like that Abraham did level with his son, just like Yahweh leveled with Yeshua.
That certainly could have happened, but also you got to remember, in the case of Isaac, Isaac wasn't stupid, and he probably was in his 30s. And so he had to carry the wood, and he had to build the altar. He had to do all these things for his much older father. And so it didn't take much for him to figure out what was going on, okay? But he had to, because of his age and being, I'm sure, stronger and everything else at that point than his elderly father, he had to voluntarily get up on that altar. That's the real big takeaway there. But it doesn't tell us that they had a conversation. It's certainly possible they did. It's fairly obvious that Abraham didn't tell his wife. How'd you like that conversation? Honey, I got to go kill the kid. Now, I know there's times when the wife says to the husband, hey, your son, just you go in there and kill him. Go in there and talk to him before I kill him. You know, but that probably didn't happen in that conversation. But the thing is, we know Abraham expected to come back with the boy because he told the servants, my son and I are going to go up and come back. So they kind of expected that. He didn't know how it was going to play out, whether he was going to be killed and resurrected or whatever. He didn't have that understood. But it's a great comparison and analogy to link, the Akedah, the offering of of Isaac to the offering of Yeshua. Okay, excellent connection. Okay, Tamara?
I have a comment and a question. My comment is following up with one of the things you were discussing. Our oldest daughter, Kaylin, who was here for the wedding, is in nursing school, and she will be graduating next month. And earlier this year, we had the discussion because the schedule came out, and we knew that she would graduate on a Friday. And so she brought it up, and thank goodness for good leadership. And Rob said, he just told her, and he actually held the Bible and said, we can't do it because this tells me I can't.
It was Friday night? Is that what the problem was?
Yes, it's next month and it's on Friday. But I prayed, and Yahweh heard my petition, and she has a pinning 2 days prior to that where she gets pinned as an RN, so we're going to be able to attend that.
Awesome.
So not only that, but Yahweh softened her heart with our prayers and our faith and belief, and she came to me 2-3 weeks ago, and she says, Mom, you may not remember, but my graduation is on Friday, and I'm not going. I know that you can't go, so I'm not going to go.
Now, let me just say this. What's the likelihood of her making that decision if you didn't make yours? Okay, 0.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that has been the hardest for us because she was 18 when we stumbled on our way into Torah. And so it's been a struggle for her because she is not on the same page with us. And she moved out shortly after she graduated high school. But not only that, with this nursing, her boyfriend of 4 years died in the middle of this. So she was given a sabbatical, a semester off, and I basically kind of kicked her back into the program. And so it was really personal for me because of all of the work and hard work she'd put into it.
Sure.
And I felt guilty. There was a lot of guilt. But then, with the help of my leadership and support, I just prayed and believed, and Yahweh made it happen, and I'm just, I wanted to share that with you guys.
Amen.
You just got to believe that he will make something else happen, and that pinning to be on a separate day, don't think it's traditional. I think it used to be at the pinning earlier the day and then graduation later, and so this year it's different.
Amen.
So, okay,
Amen.
and my question, because I'm linear, back in John 11, in the beginning of the chapter, verse 2. Is it verse 2?
11 or 12?
Well, I'm gonna get there. There is this discussion about Miriam and the anointing of the perfume,
Right.
and then it goes back to chapter. In 11, it's like it's already happened, and then in 12, it discusses it again. And I was just curious if that's just a translation thing, or.
Okay, so it's in 11 where it says, and now it was Miriam who had anointed the master with perfume and wiped his feet with her hair. And then where is it in 12? 12:3. Then Miriam took a pound of costly perfume of nard, probably spike nard, anointed the feet of Yeshua and wiped his feet with her hair. Okay? In some of these things that you read, excuse me, I've got a sneeze right here. I'm going to turn this off. I thought it was going to be louder than that. Okay. Sometimes when you're reading chronologically, it goes a distance and then it may jump back and go the same distance again. So it's not always that way. Okay? And of course, when you see this in the parenthetical, it could be that somebody would put in that parenthetical piece, put it in, not realizing it doesn't get mentioned till later, but stuck it in here just to tell everybody who we're talking about. Okay? So, but to the point about the nursing school, I'll give you a couple of quick stories I think that kind of go along with that. One that was interesting is that my wife, I told you she graduated anyway. Well, you know, when it came to things like taking the SAT and those kind of tests, well, there was a test she had to take. I don't know if it was like the SAT or a dental hygiene exam when she was going to be a hygienist. And it was scheduled for Saturday. And usually if you ask, they'll make an adjustment and give you Sunday instead. And so she went in advance and made those arrangements to have it be done on Sunday. And then the week or two before, she realized that that was Shavuot. So she had to contact him again and say, can I get it moved to Monday? And they did, but she felt embarrassed to go back. I say, actually, Sunday's not good for me this time either. So those kind of things can happen. So you got to know your calendar. You got to know your feasts. You got to know when things are coming up. Okay, because you may say, hey, listen, Saturday's we're not doing it on Saturday. We could do it Sunday only to find out that Sunday's a holy day. And that could be any of the feast days could show up on a Sunday at some point. Just kind of know your calendar when these things are coming around. We have the calendar on our website, so you have all the dates, on there that you need for the next year. So that should be no problem. Shavuot this year is on a Sunday, and it will be also next year. Okay? Some of you think it's always on a Sunday, and that's okay too. The calendar we use, it doesn't always fall on a Sunday, but the next 2 years it does. Okay, so just kind of keep that in mind for this year and next year. So everybody will be on that same date, except the people that are off by a month. I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying the people who do a different calendar may be doing it off by a whole different month. Okay, so that could be a whole different problem. All right. So the other story I want to tell you is that I got a call the other day from a gentleman that's in a program, and in his program that he's in, and it's some sort of a therapy, sort of health-related thing. And it's a graduate thing. It's a graduate program. He found out that the rest of the courses for the rest of the program were going to have Saturdays involved. So he withdrew from the classes and decided, hey, I'll either just have to change careers or I'll have to just find another school that doesn't offer him on Saturdays. But it wasn't a hesitation, even though he'd already invested his his regular, the regular graduate program down to doing this, his regular pre-graduate, I guess, whatever, his regular schooling, and now he's in a graduate program. All that investment going in a direction, and just to say, that's okay, I can change directions. I mean, what price are you not willing to pay? And why is it that you struggle to pay the price? Okay? Everybody has a price to pay, and you have to pay it in full. And your price is not his, your price is not his, your price is not hers, your price is not... Okay, everybody's got whatever he has in mind. But that price that he has in mind for you, you have to pay it in full. And he's going to keep leaving you in situations till you pay it. He wants to know that nothing is going to come between him and you. That's your price. Proving to him, that's the Deuteronomy 8:2 test, right? It says that he's going to lead you through your wilderness to what? Humble you. That's the cost. Whatever it's going to cost to humble you. What does humbling mean? That there's nothing that when he says it, you say, but I don't want to, but I don't like it, but it's not convenient, but it's going to mess me up with my children or my parents or my best friend or my job. When you get to the point where you just say, yes, sir. Abram, yes, go kill your son. It wasn't that way, but you understand what I'm saying? Go take him where I tell you and you're going to offer him up. Do you see Abraham arguing at all? Abraham is not arguing. There's no discussion. There's no, well, why? I mean, you give me him. I've got him for these years. I'm all ready for him to be the inheritor of all of my wealth, etc., taking over the family and everything else. Now you're going to go tell me to kill him? Abraham said, I trust you implicitly, completely, that whatever you say, it's still going to work out. And so when your situation gets really tough, can you really feel that way? That no matter what happens, if you trust him, it still can work out. And by the way, how many of you have seen this? That it's only after you commit that sometimes almost right away he fixes it for you. But it doesn't happen till you do that. Now, it doesn't always happen immediately after you commit either, because I don't want you to think, well, I'll just commit and he'll fix it. He'll know if you're not really committing. But you have to first commit that you're going to make that choice and go forward with that choice and walk in faith. In other words, embracing the substance of what's not yet seen. And what's not yet seen, that it'll be okay. You can't see it. That's why you don't make the decisions. Because if I don't see it, I'm not doing it. Yahweh says, no, you have to trust me that if you don't see it, or if you do see it, the contract is that you're going to do it. Because I will take care of you. You know, this is a conversation a lot of husbands and wives have had or need to have, where the husband looks at the wife, we'll talk about this later this afternoon, and says, sweetheart, I know I haven't been the best provider, but you've been provided for. And you need to trust me. I'm going to get better at this, and I'm going to make it work. But I committed when I asked you to marry me that I will make sure that you're taken care of and that you're safe. That's the husband's role. Guess what the wife's role is? It's like us with Yeshua. You know, the Father, the Son with us. I mean, there's always sort of a hierarchy there of who's offering protection and who's submitting. The man needs to be submitted to the Father and the Son. The wife needs to be submitted to the husband, trusting that he will, even if it's imperfect and suffers along the way. Just like when we come confident with him, we suffer along the way. But he always provides, doesn't he? Not super abundantly all over the place, but he provides. Because after all, thanks to you, I'm starving to death. No, sorry, that's Tevye. But what do you have against my horse? But still, did Tevye not have everything he needed? He says, look, we don't have an abundance, but we don't starve either. Isn't that what he said? Okay? You might not have, look, I don't want to quote the Rolling Stones, but you don't always get what you want, but you get what you need. Okay? The problem is, you think everything you want is a need. Okay, we'll talk about that later too, probably. That's a big problem. That wants, needs disconnect thing. Okay? Where's the mic? Okay? Over here, Nate.
Just a couple of comments that as we were speaking about getting over this.
Put it up by the mouth.
Standing up and being able to take correction and all that. One of the reasons why we have come to MTOI and submitted to Rabbi Bergson's authority is because we believe he's an anointed, appointed one that we have not seen for the 12 years that we have been seeking. And I was referring to chapter 13, verse 20. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who receives whomever I send receives me. And he who receives me receives him who sent me. So I have submitted because I believe that Yahweh has sent Rabbi Steve. And I know he's not a perfect person. He may argue that, but I'm just kidding.
No hesitation, no argument.
But his teachings are true. We have seen now I have an understanding. I could never explain who the Father and the Son were back. I mean, I would have this flamboyant, otherworldly idea of who the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit relationship were. But because of that teaching, now I have an understanding of who the Father and the Son are, and who our Father is, who's been here since the beginning, is different from the Father who's been in the head, so on and so forth. If you've seen the teaching about who is, do you know the Father and the Son? So because I've seen the teachings that he's had, I recognize the anointing that the Father has given him to teach us. And then if you go to chapter 14 verse 12, truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he shall do also, and greater works than these he shall do, because I go to the Father. So, and I used to believe that that was like doing miracles and raising people from the dead and all these other things that we were taught in our former walk of life. And then Rabbi said something the other day that says, you know, that those works are keeping Torah. Those works are keeping Torah. That's what Yeshua does. And how many of you have had a life coach or drill sergeant or something in your life where somebody had to tell you what to do or show you that this is what you need to do in order to get your life right? And we submit to that authority. We submit to our doctors. We submit to our physical therapists. We submit to whatever it is, our drill sergeant, our coach at the gym, or physical fitness trainer, or whatever. We have no problem submitting to these people that are trying to help us with our worldly walk. And then we come to an anointed, appointed, and all of you are here, all of us, and I'm in this as well. probably more than most of you men and women and children. But I'm here, and I'm thinking how much I submit to a doctor's orders at work, and sometimes those orders may be contradictory to what I believe, like giving a flu shot. Of course, I'm thinking, well, this is not somebody who's Torah observant. I will kind of, if they ask me, I kind of tell them, no, I don't get a flu shot. But how much of us are willing to submit to these worldly authorities and don't even realize it? And then we come to an anointed appointed, and he says, no, you got to change this. And he does it lovingly. No, you need to guard the Shabbat.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Most of the time. But that's the other point I was going to make. Is look, we're going to respond one of three ways when we get correction. One is he gives us correction and we crawl under a rug and I can't believe that rabbi, he's so mean to me and he just doesn't love me. Or two, well, who are you? I'm a man. Why are you trying to tell me what to do and what not to do?
Oh, you remember that conversation?
No, hey, I'm just going to step over here. Now, it's not a fear of I think he's going to put his hands on me and kick the snot out of me. It's a fear of, like he said, I don't want to now it's becoming more I don't want to disappoint my rabbi. As much as I don't want to disappoint my Father in heaven. But he says back in verse 14 or 13, you know, he whom I send is one that is representing me. And if we believe he's anointed, appointed, not that we should like every little thing, you know, you get my point. So, and then the other third way is to go, yes, sir. You know, for me, it's a little bit easier. In some ways, it wasn't when I first came here because I was in this rebellious state. I got tired of saying yes, sir, because it was under people that weren't trustworthy or weren't anointed, appointed. And I've gone through the military. So he could scream at me. I won't melt. Okay, because I'm used to that. Now others, he knows what, and I've seen that. He knows who can handle that, you know, get in your face a little bit and tell you what you need to do. Others, he also knows it goes, okay, I can't be that tough on these ones because they may melt like butter.
Right.
And when he says, call him. I am the biggest culprit. My wife and I. Speed dial.
She has me on speed dial, yeah.
Call him. He's our life coach for Torah. He's our life coach. So why not? We'd done it for a year and a half, and somebody asked me this morning, I believe it was David Hayes and Mr. George, if he's in here, talking about honeymoons. Have you been on your honeymoon? And I said, you're still on your honeymoon, George. George, are you in here? Is he here?
Yeah.
He was here? Okay. But I said, oh, you're still in your honeymoon stage with your wife. And he said, oh, yeah.
Well, they've been married only a week, so.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Hayes says, well, you're still in your honeymoon. I said, and you've been married 25 years. I said, yeah. Actually, our honeymoon started again about a year and a half ago when we learned of MTOI and submitted to Rabbi. Our life has changed.
Yeah.
We are renewed in our covenant, renewed in our marriage, renewed in our walk with each other. But I'm not saying it was like, oh, roses, candy.
No, they were not real interested in the beginning.
And most of you don't know that my wife had divorce papers in her hand when we came to that Sukkot. And that's a long story. I won't get into it.
Now, and by the way, the only reason they talked to me was because another member of the congregation, when they heard that they were planning to divorce, got so broke up about it, forced them basically to sit down with me. Because I had already met them and said, they went right into my face and said, listen, this whole leadership thing you're selling, we ain't buying it. Don't bother. Don't come and sell it to us. I said, okay, have lunch. See you later. You know, we had just finished the service. We're going to lunch. And I said, okay, not going to, you know. But it was somebody else who appealed to their hearts, who I had already worked with and had seen fruit. That's your job, though. If you've tasted of fruit and it's good, you tell other people of it. And they were willing to then give me at least 5 minutes. Okay, and that's where I said, look, and we went through this whole little process. I said, but you know what? What would it kill you? You're already about to get divorced. Can you give me 6 months? Give me a year. Just give me a little window of time where we'll try this. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. I get it. That's fine. But will you try? Okay? And you know what? More than any, but they're my star students. Okay? Why? Because it's not just that they've gotten results, but they've done what I've asked them to do. They call me, they involve me when they're supposed to. Okay? And they listen, and we discuss, and we get things worked out. It's not just I go in and fix everything. I get them talking to each other, and more important, listening to each other. And that's why they'll tell you this has been like the best 2 years of their marriage after all those years, because they're getting things worked out. And now they're calling me, telling me, you know, I had a thing the other day, and actually, believe it or not, we fixed it ourselves and worked it out. I'm like, yay. You know? Because that's where it should be eventually. But just so you know, they made it real clear they didn't want what I was preaching when they first got here as far as leadership and submission and all of that stuff. Nope. Okay, so in case you're thinking, oh, well, they probably would. No, they were not interested. At all. You need to know that. But more than any of the rest of you, there's only so many of you, very few, like one handful of people that actually will call and will actually listen and give it a chance. I don't have any answers, by the way. He does, though, and if he allows me to be that vehicle, that spokesperson for it, you'll get his answers. That's the key. If you think when I teach it's me, then we're already off the charts. Usually it's just a list of verses and I just go. Like here, I don't have anything, notes for what we're talking about here, but when anything comes out, hopefully it's all him. And he knows whatever person out there needed to hear, whatever came out. And that goes back to the verses he talked about. So I want you to hear, I didn't ask him to do this, but I want you to hear his heart. Because there's so many of you, I watch you and I said, I know I can help you. But you don't call. And then when you do, you don't want to listen because you want to hear only what you want to hear. And that's hard. It breaks my heart because I watch you suffer needlessly. But you can talk to these two. They'd be happy to talk to you and tell you the story. Okay? And trust me, when they call me sometimes, they're not happy with each other at those moments. But they're better at calling me up knowing, as a matter of fact, what did you say that you guys will even say in those moments, are you going to call Rabbi or am I? And I get the first phone call from whoever it is and they ask me, has the other one called yet? And that's the way I know they're going to. Because if I say no, they say, don't worry, they will. You'll be getting both calls. And then we get it all worked out. But it's not me working it out. I'm not going in there like Solomon saying, okay, let's do this. I say, let's get you guys listening to each other and figure, they fix their own problems, not me. But I got them now where they're listening to each other and hearing each other, respecting each other. Where, two people coming together in a marriage doesn't automatically mean you guys are actually compatible in all ways. No. That's why marriages work. Because merging two people into one doesn't happen naturally. Does not at all. And so people get into marriages, and the honeymoon time is okay because that's still like dating. You're still trying to impress each other, and you're all excited. But then real life kicks in eventually, and you go, oh, that little thing that I kind of didn't worry about during the honeymoon phase is starting to really annoy me. And why is she doing that? Or why is he doing this? And and that starts to add up after a little while. And we talk a lot about that in other classes, but I thank you for that. You can say whatever else you want to say.
And that goes to what you just said now, is that we heard your counsel, and then we did. And believe me, I'm one that doesn't like to receive correction, but I have learned through my military training and so on and so forth to recognize the authority, yes, sir. And because of that, I believe my wife was able to do that as well. When she noticed that I was willing to submit to correction, then she was willing to submit to his correction as well. And then that helped us to trust each other. And then seeing the fruit of that trust from each other, we see the fruit of what Abba is doing through him. So with that, I'm not going to sit here for another hour.
Well, that's good. That's good.
Be in an hour. Thanks, Rabbi. I'm done.
I appreciate that. Well, thank you. But let me just kind of close that package up by saying there were many times when I would have to say to the one, when they were picking on the other about whatever it was, I would say, I will talk to them. Let's deal with you first, but I'm not going to just talk to you and not talk to them. I assure them And then eventually we can get both of them together. But if I'm talking to Dawn, for example, but I said, I will take care of Nate. I will deal with Nate. Or if I'm talking to Nate, I said, I will talk to Dawn. And then we'll get them to eventually talk to each other and get it worked out. But it's knowing that it's not just all of it's going to be all blamed on one person or something. It takes two to have a problem, okay? And usually it's communication, expectation issues. And it's also not being willing to accept the other person's brokenness or, weaknesses. Okay, we have those places where certain things will trigger us to go in a wrong direction emotionally. And even though we start to know it after a few years, we don't actually respond by adjusting to that because we keep expecting them to stop reacting that way because it's not the way you would, right? When the person reacts in a way you wouldn't, you keep figuring, why is that? Eventually they got to figure out that that's wrong. Well, but you do the same thing. You react in ways they wouldn't, and they look at you the same way. Like, why don't they see what I see? Why aren't, like, especially if one's upset and the other isn't, they don't understand. Well, why are you upset? One says, the other says, why aren't you upset? Why doesn't that bother you? Well, why does it bother you? Now we got a problem. Nobody's communicating. Okay? So what I do is I help them to see each other truly. Understand why this one's upset and this one, understand why this one's not. This one's not upset just because they're crazy off this side. This is not upset just because not upset just because they're cold-hearted and don't care. It's some sort of thing going on that we need to explore and figure out really why is it that you're reacting so differently to the same event or the same thing. A third person can help you do that, but ultimately to the point where you don't need, on a regular basis, that person involved. Okay? But also what they got to see was leadership, walking the talk, and actually, they would call in the beginning like, you sure it's okay? You sure you want to give me time? Now they'll call sometimes 2 in the morning, 12:30. It doesn't matter. They'll call when they need to call. And they don't worry about that they're waking me up or anything necessarily because they know I said and I meant it. I'm here. Take advantage of that if you need. And you guys can all do that. But you don't. But you should. Because maybe, what if it would work? That's all. What if? And again, this is not an egomaniac saying I have all the answers. I don't have any answers. Until I don't even know what the question is until I sit and talk to you. I just prayerfully say, Abba, whatever it is, put words in my mouth so I know what to say when I hear what's going on. And that seems to go pretty well most of the time. Okay? Who's next? Okay, Audrey? Aubrey?
So my question is about John 14:12.
Yep.
Does this apply to us today? That would be my first question. And then,
does it apply in what way? The greater works?
Yeah, to us.
Okay, so let's talk about this greater works thing real quickly. He says in verse 12, truly, truly, I say to you, he who believes in me, the works that I do, he shall do also. So what works was Yeshua doing? Torah. Not signs and wonders and miracles. He was mostly just doing Torah. Okay? And then he says, and greater works than these he shall do because I go to the Father. So could it be two things? One is, all of the focus on the works being done was on him. And so once he left and then came through the Ruach, of course, this would create more volume, not greater meaning, but greater amount of works. In other words, this is going to get out there and taught so that more of this is being done. It's not greater meaning just like more impressive, or the signs and wonders meaning we'll be doing even more impressive things like that. But he's saying there will be more of this Torah observance being done because I leave. Because right now I'm only reaching the 5,000 or the 3,000 that can fit on a hill. You guys are going to go out and reach whole cities. We're going to reach villages and towns and go all over the place. But right now, you're with me. We're not reaching that amount of people. Does that kind of make verse 12 make more sense? So there will be a greater volume of this stuff going on because I will leave. Because while I'm here, where's everybody? With me. Right? He says, while I'm here, you guys are with me. When I leave, you're going to go and do other things. You're going to go be sent out. At the end of Matthew, we see him sending them out. Okay? So does that answer verse 12 for you? Okay, good. Where's the mic out there? Right. Wait, I'll get to Dawid after. Go ahead, Kurt. We got to alternate mics.
All right, I got David Botwick-Rees asks, can you please elaborate on Yochanan 12, verses 13 through 16, specifically regarding the Hoshana and the taught ones remembering what was written?
Let's skip that. Okay, simply because I want to stick to the things that are more about the walk. These are interesting things to kind of figure out and understand how they prove Yeshua was Messiah, and that's okay. I get that. I don't want to kind of get too much into all of this. You know, we have him riding in on a donkey. We have him doing these other things. We have people saying, Hoshiana, blessed he who's come in the name of Yahweh, etc. But there's a lot more things in here that I think are more walk-related and more functional that I want to make sure. And we only have about 25 more minutes or so. So I want to make sure that we get that kind of covered. I've got a couple of strong things. So David, I'm sorry about that. I know you wanted that covered, but we'll skip it for now. Okay, this David. Dawid, go ahead. Stand up.
Thank you. Sorry. I just wanted to say that I am behind what Nate said 100%. The only leadership I ever really halfway respected was the rabbinical for a long time, because I'd seen so much among the Messianic movement that was like just way too wishy-washy. But even then, I didn't 100% follow them. And I've gotten to the point where I have a relationship with this rabbi, and he is my rabbi, and he is my discipler, and I do my best to follow what he says. And yes, if he's not dealing with me or Nate, call him.
Well, and Dawid does call a lot, but that's I've got a different relationship with him, trying to help him get his life together and everything. But it's all about, everything in here is about building trusting relationships. And quite frankly, those relationships you've tried to do in the past have blown up in your face. I get that. So all I'm asking is what? Give me 6 months. Give me a year. Give me a reasonable testing period of time and see. You don't like it, you don't have to keep doing it. But you should ask the question, but what if I didn't do it and it would have helped? What if it would have worked and I didn't do it? And that's really the big question. Okay, where's the mic? On this side? Okay. Lynn? No, we just get you on. It's okay.
Hypothetically speaking, I was wondering, since we're human doings and not beings, as we walk with each other as mishbucha, what I know that of course I use judgment, but I'm not to judge. So if I'm walking, just hypothetically speaking, of course, walking with a sister and say they don't seem to be taking the Torah, just take one of the 10 or something. What is my role? How should I handle it? If they come to me, or they say somebody does a Marco Polo to me on Friday night and they're in Walmart or something, how should I handle that? What should I say to my sister who's brought it now into my world?
Yeah.
I'm expecting a, Shabbat Shalom, and instead it's, here I am in Walmart. What do I do?
That's a challenging question. By the way, these are the kinds of things that can come up that sometimes is a good answer for everybody. Sometimes it's more specific and unique depending on who it is and what the situation is. That's why you bring it to leadership's attention, so we can help give you some guidance. It's kind of a slippery thing. It really depends on the level of relationship you already have with the person. Okay? Some people, as friends, have a relationship where they've allowed to speak into each other's life. I shouldn't say that. That's such a Christianese thing. I'm going to speak into your life. But you allow somebody to give you feedback, like accountability partners to whatever degree. Okay? Where I've told people, some of the people are fairly big teachers out there, they've said, look, and we've said to each other, hey, if you see me going off this way or that way, you grab a hold of me right away and say, hey, what's going on here? Okay? And so, notice what I said, though. The question was asking what's going on. So you may want to say, I noticed that you were in Walmart and it was after Shabbat. Was there something going on or urgent or whatever? And, because I'm your sister, I love you, and I don't want to see you, getting yourself in any kind of trouble. I'm not judging you. I felt I needed to say something because I saw it. Okay? Look, by the way, all of you, those of you that love Facebook anyway, please stop posting things on Saturday even if you didn't do it, but then it looks like you did. Because some of you get some time in the afternoon and think, I want to post pictures. That's not a Saturday thing to do. Okay? Especially if you're posting pictures of something you did on Friday that's not a Shabbat thing to be doing. Because then it looks like you just did it. And what's the witness there? But some of you do that because it's a time when you can grab out your pictures or whatever, and that's what you think. That's not what Shabbat is for, by the way. Wait till Sunday and do it on Sunday. There's no emergency rush that everybody see whatever great, wonderful thing you did on Friday that you want to post as fast as possible. Post it Friday. Oh, but the sun went down. Fine. Use that same thinking the rest of Saturday too. Because we don't always know, unless it's like a person holding a newspaper while they're taking the picture, what the date and time stamp is on when you did it. So let's say you went out to a beautiful restaurant, for dinner, and it was clearly, in the wintertime when we know sundown is early everywhere. Don't post that Saturday. Okay? Post that you went to dinner on Thursday night, but it wasn't Friday night, and it wasn't Sunday. Or put something that says, when we went out Thursday night. Okay? So that people know what you did. Because you know, and you assume other people know, but my wife and I see this all the time. Because remember, we're connected to roughly a few thousand of you. I've got 3,800, 4,000 Facebook friends. I'm not friends with any of them necessarily. I mean, I know a lot of you now I've become friends with, but the people who friended me initially, I hardly knew you. But anybody who asks me, pretty much I say yes, unless I know there's a reason not to, okay? Generally, I will say yes. And so we see these things posted by people we know have connected themselves with us, and we start to wonder. I wonder if they did that on Shabbat. Because it's often things that would not be Shabbat appropriate. And they probably didn't. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. But they posted it Friday night late or Saturday, looking like if it was something that you would do at night like they did it Friday night, or Saturday like it's something you did during the day that you did it Saturday. Let's use some wisdom not to do that. Okay? Let's use some wisdom not to do that. Now, if you actually did it inappropriately, why would you post it? Some of you just don't think. If you did it and it was inappropriate, why would you post it? But you do. Not all of you, but there are a few out there that do these things. Let's be more aware and use some discernment not to do that. But yes, but if a person, look, there's times, for example, in the Marco Polo groups where one of the ladies or men, because I do the ladies halacha group, so I'm the only man in that group to answer the questions about the walk. And I'm in all of the men's groups. And I'm not there watching most of the videos lately because I just don't have the time. I try to watch as much as I can. But if something gets brought to my attention because it was done publicly in front of the group, I will have to correct it publicly because the group needs to know it was corrected as well. And I sometimes have had to do that. Actually, I've had to do it with both groups a few times. It's not an awful thing that it happens, but, somebody might be, well, I wish you would have done that with me privately, but you did it publicly. So it has to be addressed publicly. If you don't want something to be addressed publicly, don't do it in public. Okay? It kind of makes sense, doesn't it? But if everybody in the group is watching it, they're also watching how I react to what happened. And if I don't react, they're going to say, oh, I guess he was okay with that. Now, maybe I was okay with it, but some people think it was no good. And I might need to go in and say, by the way, that actually was okay. But you need to hear from me that I said that it was okay from my perspective. Not that my saying it makes it okay, but you may want to know where I stand on that. Instead of just wondering and guessing or assuming. Because there have been some times where there was a little uproar about something, and I had to go in there and say, let's calm everything down. What happened was actually not a problem. Okay, as far as I'm concerned. But sometimes it is a problem, and then I have to correct, and the person's embarrassed. Well, I'm sorry, but you're doing stuff in public. You subject yourself to the possibility of being embarrassed. That's just the way it is. You want a microphone and come up here one day, guess what? You'll put your foot in your mouth at some point. Or say something, you're like, ooh, did I actually say that out loud? You'll make those mistakes. You'll quote a wrong verse. You'll do something. You'll call Aubrey Audrey, you'll do whatever it is, And her husband's now going to talk to me about it later, so I'm in trouble. Okay. Okay, but I'm just keep that all in mind. Let's be fair and make sense about it. Where's the mic? Okay, over here. Okay, Francis?
I have two questions. So is Sabbath when it gets dark outside or when the sun sets but it's still light?
Okay, so that's a great question, by the way. All right. What have I always taught you guys about your approach? Be a maximalist and not a minimalist. So in my house, sundown starts Friday night when the sun is set, but it's still light outside. But I know the sun has set. Because they didn't actually have the scientific method of figuring out literally when it has gone below the horizon, blah, 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 blah. But that's sundown or sunset is when it has gone below the horizon. It is often quite light out at that point. Okay? So I start Sabbath absolutely earlier than maybe I need to. And then I want it to be pretty darn dark before I say it's over. So I probably end up with 30 to 60 minutes more Sabbath than, oh, wow, that's good stuff. I like Sabbath. I get an extra hour of it. See, I don't mind it being longer. So start a little earlier, end a little later. I even do that when we're fasting on Yom Kippur. And I've told the congregation when we broke and fast together, I said, we are going to meet at such and such a place to eat after sundown, but I get to decide when it's after sundown, and we're not eating until then. Okay? Now, if you want to go eat somewhere else and you want to make your own choices, that's fine. But if you're coming with the group, it's okay to be hungrier for a few extra minutes. You won't die. All right? So does that answer the question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
And the other question I have is John 14, verses 12, where it says, greater works than these he shall do. Didn't Yeshua heal people?
Mm-hmm.
So is that expected of us as well, or just Torah?
No, because again, we have to wonder the works. Okay? When we look at things, this is a good question to give me an opportunity to say something that was kind of related to it, but also separate. We have to be careful in Scripture to not forget that there are absolutely, clearly roles that not everybody has, or talents that not everybody has. So in other words, there's not an expectation that everybody do certain things. Certain things there is an expectation everybody do. Everybody don't kill, don't commit adultery, don't make idols, don't steal, you know what I'm saying? We expect everybody not to do those things, or keep Sabbath, or observe feasts. We expect everybody to do those things. But not everything is for everybody. We don't see everybody being sent out to teach. We don't see everybody doing administration. Paul talks about some of these different gifts that people might have. And there's no expectation that everybody do them. Okay? You know, when he talks about the fivefold ministry, some are teachers, some are shepherds, some. Guess what? Some do healing. Not everybody. So when we're going through this process, let's understand that there are the idea of some. Now also, when we're looking at this process here in John 14, who is Yeshua talking to in John 14? Is there a big crowd of people at this point? No, who's he talking to? Disciples. So they will go out and do healings. They're going to do all kinds of things. But he trained them for that. He selected them for that. They were picked for that. Look, in John 16:16, that's one of my verses I marked down to talk about. In John 16:16, it says, no, I did write down the wrong verse, 15:16, sorry. That's what I get for running back and forth while I'm writing notes. Let's see if that's what I want. Yep. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you. Okay, broke the phone. Okay, and appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain, etc. So he's saying this. Who's he talking to? You can get that for me. Who's he talking to here? His disciples. All right? So the idea is that the anointed appointed does what? Anoints and appoints. Okay? So this whole idea that we see as a theme going through Scripture about not doing to be seen by men and not anointing yourself or appointing yourself and self-aggrandizing. He said, look, you didn't choose me. I chose you. I appointed you. Guess what? Within the ministry, that kind of works the same way. We may come up to you at some point and say, I am choosing you. Because why? He observed and selected the ones he knew had the gifts and talents that he needed to do those roles. He went and picked those guys. If I see you acting like a shamish, being a shamish, thinking like a shamish, behaving, I may come over and say to you, guess what? We're going to anoint and appoint you as a shamish, a deacon, a servant. I may observe you with the gifts and talents of a shepherd. We may make you a shepherd. It's our job in leadership as anointed, appointed who are looking to observe and recognize what's there and then appoint it to its task, so that everybody knows this person has been recognized with this particular skill set. Okay? We've got people in the classes right now teaching the children because we have noticed that they have a talent for teaching children. Because we've had them volunteer over the years, and we've seen how they've helped and how they've assisted in the rooms and noticed there's a gift there. So now some of them are actually doing some of the teaching by observation. But who anoints and appoints? The one who's already anointed and appointed. And then their job was to go what? Go out and find others and do anointing and appointing. Paul went out and, as he was anointed, went out and what? Put elders and set up congregations and let them lead those groups, with him still being over those groups in terms of responsibility and accountability and supervision. Okay? The leadership still fell on him. Because there are those out there that have done teachings. Look, 119, I like them about a lot of things they do. And this is going to go out there, they're going to go all mad at me, but that's okay. They're very publicly put out there their attack on leadership. You know, church God's model or whatever they call it. Okay? And they would use the example of Paul. You know, he put elders in the congregations to lead those congregations, so it was led by elders. It was not one person in charge. Do we have any doubt who was in charge in Philippi or Ephesus, or who was in charge? Paul. Did he have elders running the congregations? Yes. Was there a vertical structure? Yes. Was there one person in charge? Yes. By the way, was there authority over Paul? Yes. When Yaakov called him to Jerusalem, what did Paul do? Yes, sir, and showed up, didn't he? Okay? So let's not try to use what's ever out there to try to undermine the fact that these things are there. Anointing and appointing. And then a recognition of a hierarchy within that. Paul recognized that Yaakov was a higher authority than he was. Because did he not do, well, I'll say it a different way. Did he or did he not do what Yaakov told him to do? Yes. Oh, he did it, didn't he? That was submission to authority, wasn't it? Yes. Okay? Now, he could have said, well, I'm anointed by myself. Yeshua trained me personally. I don't need to listen to you. No, there's structure. There always has been structure. And Paul, recognizing that, also collected offerings to bring to support the leadership structure in Jerusalem. The verses tell us all that. We have that for sure. Okay? So that's really important. I like that verse. There it is in chapter 16. He said, you didn't choose me, I chose you and appointed you, what? That you should go and do something. So leadership appoints leadership. Okay? Moses appointed with Aaron and his son. He anoints them. Okay? They were selected out by Yahweh. He said, these are going to be the ones. But who does the anointing? He goes and puts them in the water. He goes and pours oil over them. He anointed them. The leader appoints the other leaders. And that's the way the structure is scripturally. And it's been that way from the beginning all the way to the end of Revelation. There is a vertical structure. Okay? There's such a backlash against that, and I get it, because it's been done so badly. Okay, and I use this example, that we should never get married. Why would you get married? It's been done so badly so often, and it doesn't, well, then marriage is obviously the problem, right? Not the people doing it. I mean, can we first, let's be honest, is marriage the problem or the people that are doing it? The people doing it. So the structure is not the problem, it's the people doing it. So the vertical structure isn't the problem. It's the people implementing it that are the problem. So we have to remember that. Let's be careful with that. Okay, also, so I don't make sure we skip out of this, just so that everybody knows, and we should have started off with this, forget about joy. Joy is done away with. Chapter 15 and verse 11. These words I have spoken to you so that my joy might be in you and your joy might be complete. So it's done away with. It's complete. It's also in 16:24. Until now, you have asked not in my name. Ask and you shall receive, in order that your joy might be complete. Done away with, finished. That's the absurdity of reading in Matthew where he says, I didn't come to destroy, but to complete. It's the same Greek word. So if you're going to use a concept and a word in a certain way, you're going to have to use it the same way everywhere. Let's not pick and choose. If in Matthew 5 or 6, in 5, I guess, Matthew 5, it means do away with, okay? Then it must be the same thing with joy. Well, it's completed. That means there's no more. It's been fulfilled. So I saw somebody smile over there. Stop that. Don't have any joy. Of course, wait a minute. Paul doesn't understand that because he says one of the fruit of the Spirit is joy. Children are learning about that right now. Oh, wait a minute. Then Yaakov says, count it joy in your trials. Okay. So apparently the apostles never got that message. Because it never was the message, right, that joy would be done away with. I mean, that sounds... See, but as absurd as that is, ask a Jew how absurd it would be to take him saying, I came to fulfill means I came to get rid of it. It doesn't mean that at all. Okay, wait, let me see if there's a couple of more things I marked off on here that I wanted to hit real quick. Okay, there are a couple, but I don't see if there are any more hands. Lots of them in the back, okay? Kirsten?
I just wanted to say real quick that I saw the fruit of my parents, and that's why I'm here. But I do have a question about John 12:47 and 48, where it says, "And if anyone hears my words but does not watch over them, I do not judge him. For I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world. He who rejects me and does not receive my words has one who judges him. The word that I have spoken shall judge him in the last day." And I was just a little confused about, okay, they heard it, but they rejected it, but he's not judging them, but someone else.
Okay, so this goes back consistently to what we talked about the other day about the Song of Moses and the idea of the words were a witness against. So they have an opportunity. He says, look, you are, and by the way, your mother was very moved by that comment. I mean, look, think about it. Here's a child who saw what their parents were going through and saw the fruit, and it not only affected them, obviously, that they were happy about it, but that's why they're here. I mean, that's, I know you said that so quickly, but I don't want to miss the power of that. All right? But now in verse 47, he says, if anyone hears my words and doesn't watch over them, I don't judge him. Why? Because it doesn't say judgment is now for all of that. I didn't come here to judge, he said. I didn't come to judge. I came to do a starting of a regathering and do certain things and be buried and resurrected. There were things I came to do. One of the things I didn't come to do was judge, though. This is not the time for that. However, he's saying, look, but the one who rejects me and doesn't receive my words has one who judges. The word is a witness against you. You can't say, well, I didn't know. Well, nobody told me. He's saying these are the people that were told and know and have rejected. That is the word that you will be judged by the Torah. You'll be judged by the word. You'll be matched up your walk against what you heard and knew to do. Because the covenant is you hear and you do. Okay? Does that make sense then? And it matches perfectly with what Moses said. This will be a witness against you. The Torah is a witness against you. All these things are witnesses where you can't say, I didn't know. Now, you can if you were not called, but he's saying, look, those, here he says, if anyone hears my words and doesn't watch over them, the person who has ears to hear, and he means hearing like as in Shema, not like hearing like you happen to be in the same room and the sound came into your ears. You've got lots of family members and friends who have heard things, but they didn't have open ears. So I think he's talking about open-eared people here, people he's called, open their ears. He said, look, if they reject me, and don't receive my words. Do you see the difference? Hearing and receiving. We're told in the Old Testament, we did this in the Heart of the Matter teachings, to lay up the word or the Torah in your heart. That's your active participation. You could be sitting in here, hear what I've said, I'm reading the word, but if you don't receive it, that's where you get in trouble. You can choose to receive. You may not have a choice to hear because unless you put earplugs in or whatever, you're sitting here, you're going to hear something you might not want to hear. But how do you receive it? And so, does that answer the question? Okay, good. Okay, where's the mic? The other one somewhere? Okay, anybody else? Okay, Jeremy wants to go. Actually, we need to end because already after 12. Go ahead. You'll be the last one.
Yeah, I lost it now, but I'll find it real quick. 1625, I believe. All right. I can't find it now, but it says that...
Well, you pushed the button, it was on.
Push it. It says that if I hadn't come and done the signs that no one else did, they would have no sin.
Right.
I lost where it was, I just had it, but
right.
I was wondering what he meant by they would have no sin.
Okay, I had that as a verse to cover. 15:22. Yep, there it is on my notes. Thank you. Okay, so that's exactly the same thing I was just telling for what Kirsten's question was, basically. All right? If I had not come and spoken to them, They would have no sin. What does that mean? What is sin? The transgression of the law, right? And so he's saying, look, if I hadn't done the signs and wonders and works in verse 24, if I hadn't come and done the things that they saw, look, what got the guys in trouble in the wilderness after they were told to go into the land? They had seen, the signs had been done. If they hadn't been done, those guys wouldn't have been in trouble. They were in trouble because they'd seen it, they'd experienced it, they knew it, and yet they didn't receive it to take action. So they have sin. See, sin is a transgression of the law, but I believe in Yahweh's understanding, the way he teaches us, that if you do it not knowing that it was actually wrong to do, he's not holding that accountable to you. He's saying if they had not had me here, if I had not spoken to them, if they hadn't seen the signs and the wonders, they would just be chugging along. That's like Christianity, right? For over 2,000 years now, they have been convincing a bunch of people that all they need to have is this, whatever this is. It's not the whole picture. Some of it's actually completely wrong, but it doesn't matter. This is the this that they have. And so there are a lot of people out there totally comfortably believing that they have what they need. And I don't believe that Abba holds them accountable for that. I think he might hold some of the teachers accountable for that, if they know better. But a lot of them just went to seminary where they learned how to become a person who teaches that, whatever that is. In the Baptist form, the Methodist form, the Catholic form, whatever it was, right? Whatever flavor, you come out teaching that thing. And you believe, and I'm sure a lot of those guys, look, when you were Christian, some of you were very strong Christians, meaning you believed what you believed very strongly and did what you knew to do the best you could. But you still were sinning a lot, but you didn't know it. Okay? So I don't think that Abba sees it as sin that way. Like sin meaning that you're accountable for. He has to open your eyes and ears, and then when you've seen and tasted and fed on that, now you're responsible. Okay? So that's the same kind of thing I was talking about when Kirsten asked the question, the same sort of idea. See, Yeshua's hitting these points over and over again because they need to be hit over and over again. That's part of the problem. Let's go to John 15 and we'll wrap it up with this. Earlier up in the chapter, we were already in 15:22, but just remember this as we're reading John 15, and we're going to read this as part of the Are You Saved teaching. He says, stay in me. And he says, stay, over and over again in the first 8 or 10 verses, all the way down to verse 9. He says, as the Father's loved me, I've loved you. Stay in my love. Stay. Okay? When I tell a child, stay, if I have a pet and the pet's like a dog and you say, stay, you're expecting it to go stay right there because if it goes away, something might happen to it or whatever, but you say it because they can leave. I mean, I wouldn't tell a child to stay if I strapped it down to the chair and it can't go anywhere. I'm saying, if I have a little baby, I stick it in a high chair and he's strapped in and it's little, right? I don't need to tell it to stay. It's not going anywhere. You got a newborn. They don't even roll over. I can walk away. He's not going anywhere. He's not even rolling over. He can't crawl, nothing. They're not even probably moving their hands a whole lot. They just don't have control of anything, but they're just not going anywhere. I don't have to tell that baby to stay. And so just remember that in chapter 15, and we're going to cover this more in the teaching, I don't know which part we'll get to it in, but the idea of you don't have to say stay unless you can leave. So let that be a part of, just plant that seed as we get ready for more of the Are You Saved teaching, that he says stay. Because you have a choice. You can leave. You don't have to stay. It's got to be your choice. It's got to be your desire. So I pray that you stay in him. Now, the ones who are in trouble that Jeremy was asking about and like Kirsten was asking about, etc., are the ones that did not choose to be in him. They saw what they saw. They experienced what they experienced. It should have motivated them to want to be, I want to be in that. I want to be immersed in that. I want to embrace that. I want to stay in that. But they rejected. They didn't stay. Some of them rejected and said, I don't want to come. Because you can start even with that. You can see and experience and receive from that whole point of view, but not want to come. Many are called, but not everybody comes. Not everybody chooses to come when he calls. We have verses we read, I don't remember which, day 1, I mean day 2 or 3, whatever it was, where it said, and after that point, some who were students stopped walking with him. They didn't stay. Does that make sense? We get that? Okay? All right, you're gonna, Sharon's got her hand up. Is it going to be quick? Oh, can they come back? Okay. Yes, they can come back until you stop breathing. As a matter of fact, there's come on, I wrote it down here. All right, chapter 12 kind of hints at some of that stuff there. He says in verse 40, he has blinded their eyes and hardened their hearts so that they should not see with their eyes and understand with their heart and turn, and I should heal them. In other words, if you can have eyes to see and ears to hear, you have an opportunity to teshuvah, to turn, and guess what happens? Then you can be healed. Not necessarily on your physical body, but I'm saying the idea of restoration. He said that I've blinded them because if they would see and have ears, they might decide to, after messing up, teshuvah, and he didn't want them to do that at that point. So I've hidden it from them. Because lest they see and hear, they may turn around. So the hope is that even those who don't stay, remember with the idea of walking down the path, you can walk off left to right, but teshuvah means I'm going to get back on the path. So yes, if you leave, you can get back on, provided you actually have time still to do it. I wouldn't spend a lot of time off the path. Okay? And I would never get off the path thinking, well, I'll get off knowing I'll teshuvah later. No. Okay? That doesn't work very well either. This is not one of those things, well, I know I'm going to confession next week, so I'll just do whatever I want. I'll just confess it. It'll be all right. Doesn't work like that. Okay? All right, I need someone to end us in prayer. Got a lot of hands went up real quick. How about bring it around to Craig? Let Craig Lane go ahead and close us in prayer. Good job, guys. So a lot of hands go up quick. Excellent.
Alvino Malkanu, our Father, our King, we come before you, thanking you and praising you, and just loving you and loving all of our family here. We so enjoy these times and look forward to the times to come. And we thank you for the anointing that you have given the leader of our group, that he may, in a lot of ways, be the father to all of us. And we ask for some peace and some rest for him and for everyone here as well. And we just look forward to everything that you have to reveal to us in the rest of this feast. And we just thank you and praise you, and all of this in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Okay, have a good rest of your day, everyone on live stream. Blessings to all of you. One day may you all be together with us here, wherever we are doing these meetings, so that we could all be face-to-face with you. Blessings and shalom.